Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to Cilinix Crypto, or welcome to the channel, of course, if you're new. And welcome to this new crypto market update today, this Friday, the 9th of May. There's no major news coming in terms of economic data today, but obviously there is a lot going on in the markets. And that's what we'll talk about, all right? We'll do a full deep dive on Bitcoin specifically. We'll talk a little bit about the fundamentals around the market that are influencing the markets. And then we'll talk about some altcoins as well. Yesterday, in the video, some of you actually remembered, and some of you acted on that. But there were three altcoins that we talked about. One of them being Mudang, which absolutely skyrocketed afterwards. It's up 150% after the call yesterday. If you took that, congratulations. I personally did not, just to be completely honest with you. I saw that it had potential, volume was very high, and it was breaking some major levels, but it remained high risk, and I personally did not take it. And it also rallied a lot when I was asleep, so it's always difficult then. But no, let's get right into it. So let's start off with the fundamentals around the markets. Like I said, there's no major economic data today, but there is a lot of news coming in throughout the day. I mean, tomorrow, obviously, we have those early talks between China and the US. We'll talk about that a little bit more tomorrow. I think that will have an effect, but how much of an effect really depends on the outcome of that, and just in general the publications around that. Today, Trump tweeted about the tariffs to China potentially being decreased, but so far that isn't really giving that much of a bullish reaction. I mean, if we take a look at the general financial influences or the general financial factors influencing Bitcoin, you can see that the S&P 500, so the stock market, which is very important for Bitcoin, is retracing. It opened a little bit higher, but is now below yesterday's close price, and in general is at a very strong resistance level. And then apart from that, the volatility index has also bottomed slightly, and gold has also gone up a little bit, which signals a bit of an increase in instability. So the fundamentals right now are not great, and that's something you should be aware of. And then outside of that, since the US market has opened, we actually were in a Coinbase Bitcoin discount for some time. So I would say the fundamentals, if you compare them today to yesterday, today they're definitely more bearish, although I wouldn't say much more bearish. And ultimately, Bitcoin, look, it's pulling back a little bit here. So those are the fundamentals. Let's talk about Bitcoin. Look, Bitcoin is pulling back here, and that has an influence on altcoins as well, as you can see. But generally, the most important levels for me for Bitcoin are this level right here, around 101,500 down to 101,000, and then to the upside it's 106,000. You can still see the levels right here. I've written them down on the chart for my Bitcoin report in the premium group. But those are the two main levels, and you might ask, well, what are these levels based on? And that is, if you zoom out for Bitcoin here, you can see a very, very relevant level is around 101,000. That was the main resistance level between December and February, and that was also the main support level every time we broke above that level. And what I'm using right now is basically the volume profile of the price action we had from the 17th of January until the 31st of January right here, right? So that also, and you can also see it on the chart, but that gives me the resistance at 106. So personally, look, very zoomed in, we're just in that range, and what we're looking for is certain reactions at the edges of that range, right? So either at 106 for a potential short, even though shorting in these market circumstances, I'm not sure if it's the best idea. It can be profitable, but it's harder than to win on the long. And then to the downside, what we're looking for right here, I'd say prices right now, we're at 102.6. I'd say that's within the chop, right? I would wait for a move into that level right here between 101 and 101.5. If we get a strong reaction there, or a drop down below that and a strong reclaim, I think that's good enough of a reason to go long on Bitcoin. And if we get a very weak reaction there, for example, if we drop down to 101,000 or 100,000.5 and we are unable to reclaim that, then that would be a very bearish indication, and then we can drop down into 99 and potentially even 98,000 down here where the next support is. So I would wait for a reaction at those edges to know what's going to happen with Bitcoin, and then the main thing you should look for is not necessarily Do we break out? Yes or no? Because very often what happens is that you have fake outs, right? So be aware of that. But just in general, on the lower time frames, how much strength, how much volume are we getting from these levels? And basically, how good of a job is Bitcoin doing in either holding or pushing through support here? Because I do think that this support level right here, around 101.5 thousand, is the main level to look at. So that would be my thoughts on Bitcoin for now. If I would have to give you a prediction, I would say it's most likely that we will push down into support, but for now I'd say it's most likely that we will hold that and that we will still see continuation into the POC at 105 and a potential expansion into 106. Now, talking about some altcoins, first of all, my XRP spotlight, which I always do in these middle of the day market updates. XRP has continued up to 2.41. As expected in the video this morning. If you watched that video, you would have been prepared for this. So far, we're rejecting from that. I would say as long as 2.25, 2.28 holds, which I do think is most likely at this point of time, we can still see a continuation higher, right? So then conservatively, I would say continuation higher for XRP is 2.5, but ultimately we're aiming for the value area high right here at 2.61. So those are my thoughts on XRP. Now, I wanted to not specifically zoom in on certain altcoins right here, because there are a lot of altcoins that I can talk about right now. You can see a lot of altcoins are gaining momentum here. But what I wanted to do is focus on narratives, all right? So specific categories or narratives of altcoins, which I think you need to keep an eye on. Yesterday we spoke about 3 altcoins. Right now we're talking about at least one narrative, and that is these dino coins / veteran coins / whatever you want to call them, but the list of coins I'm talking about right now is these, right? So if we zoom out here, it's this list. It's Algo, there we go, Algo, XLM, HBAR, right? So these rallied a lot in November, and I think when we're talking about the risk reward and where they are right now in the structure, these have a lot of potential. All right, we're looking at Algorand right now, gaining volume, just had a breakout above 22.5 cents, 21 cents. When we're taking a look at Hedera, it's trying to break out above 20 cents, would be a major breakout. XLM, it's trying to break above 30 cents, would be a major breakout. I think this is a narrative you should keep your eyes on. Would I buy it right now? Not necessarily. I would wait for either that pullback into these imbalances to the downside, which all of them have, or wait for a high volume break above those levels, right? So for XLM, it would be 30 cents. For Hedera, it would be 20 cents. So wait for that confirmation. But ultimately, this is one of the best narratives I think you should keep an eye on. Cosmos is also one of them, which I like a fair bit. But that's my narrative / altcoin spotlight for now. If you do have any questions, anything, let me know down in the comments, or better yet, join the Telegram or Discord. Comments are very crowded with spam, etc. So hopefully I'll talk to you in there, but for now that's it. So thank you for watching, have a great weekend in advance, and bye.